Okay, YouTube test number 2. And I'm going to keep on making these tests. I actually like the YouTube interface better than the Facebook interface, because the Facebook interface is buried with all kinds of stuff. So Pete Bennett here. And although the only disadvantage of YouTube is I don't have any way of inviting anybody, at least I don't think so. I don't have that many followers on YouTube, but maybe I will soon, and this might be a better strategy. So Pete Bennett talking about his blood pressure in the Safeway store that's next to the pharmacy where a guy named Jamie Sheets once worked. And I'm not buying what they said in 2002, 2001, and I'm not buying about the Doc's Pharmacy case, and I'm not buying about how Jamie committed suicide. I knew the guy only from, he was the pharmacist, but I knew his partner for many, many years. We go back 40 years now. And I'm in a store that a lot of weird things have happened. The manager here is dead. They fired. Everybody said they stole stuff, which I don't believe either. That was about 2 years ago. And they brought in a special guy to do that. They stole my laptop in front of the store. And this message is for, is it Robert Edwards or Robert Miller? I forget. But he's the CEO Miller of Safeway. And then part of this leads to Robert Edwards, the chairman of the board of Target. And then some of this leads to the current CEO of PG&E, Geisha Williams, who's in contempt of court in the PG&E explosion. And for those of you who want to learn about what I know, go hashtag PGE Witness and understand. And then this is going to go to your investment community. I'm going to make your life miserable. You stole millions from me in more than one way. And through this store, I was harassed completely and effectively for many years. Cars stolen, laptops stolen. What was stolen from this store is enough to kill 1 million people. That's a lot of people. And that's about what happened with my laptop being stolen in front of the store. And somehow this my face got triangulated, most likely when I came through with my EBT card, which was being monitored to find out my travels. And that's how they knew I was here, and then that's how they stole it. And that leads to District Attorney Mark Peterson. And for you, Mr. Fink, and you, Miss Williams, one of the things you have to overcome is I've been calling you for 7 years. I've got all the BI's got all the records. I've sent them everything. And I'm going to try to go to your offices next week. You're going to arrest me for trespassing. And you're going to try, at least. And you're in contempt of court. And I'm trying to tell you what happened. And I'm trying to tell you you're violating your ethics program. So I'm going to make sure that your media group that's also lying, that, by the way, when you hang up on me on the phone, you're actually being monitored by the FBI. You think you guys are off the hook. Forget it. I didn't do it. You didn't do it. You got here afterwards. I got dragged into it by somebody very clever. Nearly positive it's one of your former senior attorneys. That narrows it down for you. It's about 300 people. You can do the White House witch hunt on your own. People around me are being hurt and being killed. And BlackRock is one of the people in the middle. And if we don't bring this to a head pretty soon, BlackRock could be losing billions. Oh, I forgot my one little thing here. So I'm going to pull out my Amazon cards, and hang on while I take my face away from this for a second. But let's have a little, because I noticed that logos really get people mad. And when your logo is on the front page of the newspaper, you get really worried, antsy, and then all of a sudden you think bad PR and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm at 7 years of this, pal. That's enough bad PR to last a lifetime. And what's the difference between me and you? Miss Williams, I'm homeless. And you're going around here telling us what a great lady you are. And I'm going around here telling you that my family got killed in your connection to you. I didn't sign up for this mayhem. I got dragged into it. I'm going to try to be salient tonight and kind and polite, but this has gone on for a long time. And, you know, I'm going to mess around with you guys and see what kind of nice people you are. Because you tell everybody you do all these things, including Target and Safeway. And I need food. I need hot food for a change. And I need suits. So that's why I got this other one here. And this is going to go to Nordstrom's. And this is going to go to Macy's. And we'll bring one more down. I'll use them later for something else. And yeah, oops. Now, that's enough for tonight. So, as I'm going to do my blood pressure first, going to talk for a few minutes about Starbucks and Safeway and what happened at Barnes & Noble and how I was stalked and how Amazon has a board of directors that has a, what do you call it? They have a slavery statement on Lion Capital out of England, which is part of the Financial Authority's regulations, so sort of like a different version of SOX. This one here, they actually want to know if you're killing people in the fields. There's plenty of that been going on for decades. Hopefully this country can change. So I am about to push the blood pressure monitoring test in the Safeway store. So I'm at Safeway. Oh my God, the pressure cuff is getting on. Now I gotta calm down. So I'm gonna do the ohm. Well, we're doing a little better than we were earlier, the 96 and above. Something tells me that I have a change in health. Now, I'm going to have to live with that. So, listen, I know the owners of Piedmont Lumber, and I know that when Piedmont Lumber burned down, $35 million worth of business showed up. Mr. Cornell, that's your job over there, to call up Home Depot and ask them if they maybe burned down the Piedmont Lumber up the street from your North Main store and burned it up so that you and Lowe's, because I know you guys all have your little interlocutory directory, maybe you guys torched that building to generate some revenue for Lowe's. It was about 6 months apart. What a surprise. Actually, I think the FBI already's got this theory. In fact, I think it's been applied elsewhere. Now, Mr. Cornell, or Mr. Johnson, or Mr. Bezos, or Jamie Gorelick, board of directors of Bezos, or maybe the big guy himself, Mr. Larry Fink. This would be a heck of a nice card to have in my hand so I could go buy some clean clothes. And then that doesn't mean I have a place to live because I'm homeless. And I'm homeless because out in front of your store, this store, they stole my laptop connected to PG&E. Amazon, Jamie Gorelick's got a national security clearance, can obviously look up what I've gone through and validate what I've been through because it's all there. How do I know? Well, one of the things that happened in my little story is that I was arrested and I've been attacked in front of this store, and I've been threatened in this store, and I've been threatened by people that attend Hillside Covenant Church with Steve Bird. He personally had me thrown out of the store. Now, Ms. Gorelick, excuse me, she works at Lion Capital, and that's a British corporation governed by the rules of the Financial Society. Now, one of the reasons I'm bringing that up is you've got a slavery statement up there. So if I get beaten in front of your store and Steve Bird chases me out, that means Safeway's trying to do something to me. And if my pharmacist gets killed here, that means Safeway's trying to do something to me. And then on the other side of the store worked a guy named Timmy Stevens in the deli. And Timmy's dead. and his sister died in a really bizarre murder-suicide. Murder-suicide's my story. That's a whole nother tangent. The other piece of the story that you guys are going to have to overcome is the Nestle connection, because there was a Nestle employee that was found dead of a murder-suicide in Mapleton, about, I think, within about 15 miles of my nephews being killed. So I don't need scrub dots, and I don't need latex gloves. I need a place to live. I don't want to eat dog food because you guys put that out there for me along the way. That happened about 3 years ago. You know, the definition of torture is deprivation and withholding of things that you need to survive. And the additional elements of it are intimidation, assault, battery, stealing of the money so that I can't survive, towing away my cars so that I can't drive, taking my house, my clothes, and my food. If you follow what I'm saying, it's kind of it's a many tangents. So all my computers are stolen. Oh my gosh, look at this. I could buy a Dell with this. See that 500 thing there? That's not even close to what I've lost in this story. They took my $1,500 laptop 6 years ago and broke it and returned it broken. And little did I know that there was 20,000 pages of PG&E information on there. So, Miss Williams, hopefully you're listening, and Mr., because you're all going to get this at the same time. You're going to get this little thing here. I got a bunch of them I've already done. You can look at all of them. I don't care anymore. I'm talking because I've got family to protect, and I can't. If you don't pay me and my sons get killed, will you be at fault? No, you will not be, because you, as a personal person, you have no liability, because you're a corporation. And if I ask for money and you say no, sue us, and then I say I don't have my documents because they were taken. Look, I know enough about the PG&E explosion that it was domestic terrorism. I called it 4 years ago, and 6 weeks later, I had family killed in Utah, not far from Timothy, and I don't remember his last name, but he worked for Nestle. And Nestle's sale was orchestrated by Robert Edwards of Target. And I get back to all this stuff here, and, you know, I go back here. Oh my gosh, you could actually load this cart at $500 and I could eat hot food, right? After all the money you stole from me, you still want to stonewall me. And when I say you, it could be a combination of BlackRock, it could be a combination of their advisors, it could be a combination of a garden variety of people. Oh, Nordstrom's. I don't know if I want to go to the rack. I actually want to go to Nordstrom's and get my suits replaced. I once had suits. Look at this high quality t-shirt for $3. Okay? And I'd like to have my dental work fixed, because that's something else that needs to be done. And I'd rather have a pair of clear glasses. What I'm tired of is getting whacked in the street by people I don't know. And the reason that's happening is because the people that you know are the ones coming after me. And I have a lot to say about Plumpjack and Gavin Newsom. And now I'm beginning to understand the relationship between Newsom and some of the elements that happened down here. And I got friends digging for me. I'm getting a little help right now from one of my friends who's got some time. So you see all these things here? I could just walk into this store, you know, a couple days from now. And, you know, T-Mobile is important because my laptop was breached by Russians. All right? So what the deal is... There's a plug here, man. And sorry, you don't give us enough plugs. Actually, nobody does. We're desperate for power. So, you know, I need my phone's replaced. AT&T, by the way, $35,000 in 9/18/2001. And I consider what happened that day from my laptop to be one of the other biggest domestic terrorism breaches virus called NIMDA. It was on my system. BlackRock, you have interest in this company. So how come I'm not getting paid? from PG&E? How come I'm working for Symantec? How come I'm at GE Nuclear? How come I'm not getting paid? How come my cars are getting run off the road? How come my children were kidnapped? How come I've been beaten up? How come? I live in the city of Walnut Creek. This is for the mayor. I'll leave his name out. But I'm being tortured. Torture, the definition of torture, slavery is deprivation. Okay, withholding of food, money, access to legal. That would be the Contra Costa Bar, guilty of witness intimidation and obstruction of justice. How do you sue a bar association? Well, hell, they don't want to hear about me because I have a feeling I might be messing up their retirement if I win a lawsuit. Now, I'm going to go into State Farm, which is where the former Contra Costa Bar Association president, Philip Anderson, who was fully informed of my exploding truck. And then I have another beef with Kinder Morgan down the street where my friend Alicia Driscoll and her daughter were brutally murdered. And they called it a murder-suicide. They just, they went like this. They said, the real story is this. Oh, my phone flipped with me. I didn't realize it would do it that quickly. I tried to flip myself upside down. I already am flipped upside down. Anyways, my name's Pete Bennett, Pete at PeteBennett.net. You can go down to your friend at Bill Tauscher, who owns Blackhawk Networks, that just took it private equity with Silver Lake Partners. And I know a lot about the private equity deals. I've been researching it now for about a year. And Mr. Fink, you pick up the phone and you call Regency Centers and ask them why they arrested me in front of CB Richard Ellis and in front of Starbucks and in front of Panera. And you ask them, why am I keep getting arrested when I spoke against Mr. Bezos, not really badly, but Regency Center's other application in Walnut Creek, in front of the Walnut Creek Planning Commission, in regards to the Whole Foods remodel and its Senior Grande. So, if I'm speaking against you and your board of director works at a company that has a slavery rule, that's you. And I think $100 wouldn't even drop a dent. I need a whole lot of things: computer screens, replacements, car. And over at Ford, if you ever get to talk to them, that's where my truck blew up, and that's where it was repossessed and damaged, and all kinds of weird stuff happened. So, I'm fighting back the best I can. Good chance I'll probably get killed by your friends before I get a chance to even get my feet on the ground again. I walk down the street at night until I just walk, hoping that they won't run me down or kill me like they've tried. It's well documented. Look up Special Agent Kenneth Karch, FBI. He arrested Officer Lombardi, who put a gun to my head and called me a drug dealer. And then he said I stole my own tools. And then they did a strip search where they dropped my pants to the middle of my knees so my neighbors could see me being strip searched on the street. Okay, what else did they do? A lot of stuff. That leads to James Greenan and Rick Kopp, an attorney, and Paul Clark, the Mormon bishop, and a senior vice president from CB Richard Ellis. And those Mormons ripped me to pieces because they knew I figured out that my 1989 witness murder was connected to Southern Pacific. And so that's another case you can spin your wheels on, Bennett versus Southern Pacific. And by the time all 10, 15, 20 of these corporations take a look at what I'm spending, you're going to spend $150,000, $250,000 digging up what I just told you. And you're going to leave me over here struggling for my life. So Jamie Gorelick, I'm going to send a letter. I got the email of one of your people at Lion Capital. I don't think you're a bad person. I haven't found anything about you, but some of the people near both of us are not good people. There are buildings being burned down. They are creating real estate development trusts so they can go out and move into the Pulse nightclub and probably move into the Ghost Ship Fire, where 4 of my acquaintances, but one that I knew pretty well, was killed. And I saw this 30 years ago with the Pittsburg Safeway that moved into the Sino territory. So I know the fire thing. I worked for the Sinos. They didn't pay me either. They're friends with the district attorney. And all that. So here I am, not bare and naked on the floor like that song. But I'll tell you right now, Pete Bennett needs his remedy. You have... And the other part about it is when you go to my blog, and I'll try to put it in the post when I send it over, cnetscandal.blogspot.com. is real important to me, because on there you're going to see a picture of my family apartment. You're going to see a picture of Princess Diana, excuse me. And I'm a Milne from Aberdeen, or actually I'm a Milne from Glasgow. I don't know my names that well. And she's a Milne from Aberdeenshire, I think is how you pronounce it. And I'm pretty sure there's a connection, because I was talking to a guy from Scotland Yard in 2010 when I was running from the district attorney, who's friends with attorney Rick Kopp, who's friends with Michael Peterson. And Michael Peterson is connected to James Green in Alamo First Ward. And James Green connects to this store, Safeway. I found the litigation, you know. And then we could talk to Alston Bird, stiff me for a couple $1,000s. Or we could talk to how I lost my case against the city of town of Danville when my witness was thrown down an elevator shaft. It's a lot, it's too much, it's too often, and I want remedy. Okay? So, Mr. Bezos, they're burning down buildings. Folks over at Home Depot, you got to answer some questions here, really tough, because somebody burned down a business that I've known for 40 years, now 40 years, but burned it down about 8 years ago. I was there the day it happened. I drove by it. Congressman DeSaulnier was perfectly poised in place. I could use some nice clothes. I really want some nice shirts, but before I go get any kind of clothes, somebody at Regency Center's got to tell me why my clothes, my suits and ties and shirts and pants all ended up at the Tazelhauer Cleaners after my dry cleaner blew his brains out someplace in Danville from the Green Valley Center. And then, oh my God, you mean you might actually want to be kind and gentle and give me some food? I've been thrown out of Trinity Center. I've been trespassed from the place that they give food. And on their Galala coming up, they say that they help homeless people. Well, the food that Safeway gives to the food bank is the same food bank that said I was well qualified for a job, even though they knew I was homeless. And that's because the food from the bar is the Contra Costa Bar Association, the Alameda County Bar Association, the Solano County, and probably the San Francisco. And you could take that into United Way, and I've got some of that posted on my blog. And we'll go from there, all right? So I can't believe this, that you actually sell $500 Starbucks cards. And boy, I could use some hot food. You know, it's kind of tough out there, man. And I'm going into the winter. I have to go get another test for cancer for my thyroid to see if it is, and there's good days and bad days. Today has been pretty good. And I'm in this store, and you know, look, this is it, man. This is all I have left. This is my backpack. This is my jacket. This is my backpack. The homeless stole my clothes. Somebody in Walnut Creek took my pianos and guitars, all that. And I was actually making some pretty good money playing on the street. You can go look at us, called musicbypete.blogspot.com. You know, I've got a lot of blogs. My laptop is broken. I need a monitor screen. I can actually replace it myself. But when people look at me and go, where have you been for 10 years? Well, I've been chased by cops connected to the ones that got indicted. And the indictment, by the way, is U.S. Code 1503, I think is what it is. It's the Hobbs Act. It's a predicate for the RICO statutes. And the RICO statutes that would apply to me is 2403, force, fear, or violence, which is if I'm bleeding off the top of my head in downtown Walnut Creek, 50 feet from Regency Centers, and I spoke against Regency Center 18 months earlier, which is that force, fear, or violence. You had nothing to do with it except that I was calling, and Ms. Gorlick, this is something that's very important for the firm. Your credibility could be destroyed. Because I called Mr. Salazar, who represented PG&E, allegedly created the world's greatest ethics program. So I'm going to put this video up and I'm going to send it to PG&E and I'm going to say, here it is, folks. I don't have a PG&E logo, but I will. So you asked Mr. Salazar why he thinks it's okay to arrest me, or why he thinks it's What's the coincidence, excuse me, to my phone calls to your offices, which you can find out, and why my phone was blocked so I couldn't call you. All right? And by the way, it's my family in Salt Lake City that's dead. My best friend from New Jersey is found murdered in a creek. Another one's found in Phuket, Thailand. And I know Governor Newsom, and I know I'm pretty Lieutenant Governor Newsom. And I know he's kind of lying about the Lester website called lestergarnier.com. Another website I'm working to help homeless, even though while I'm down in the dumps and having my own troubles, I'm willing to step up to the plate and help homeless with my Bay Area homeless. And the best thing I can do there is just use my database skills. But you know, my laptop's broken. I'm very tired. I work really late. I need a larger screen. I need a place to sleep. I need a place to sit down. I need to take a shower and wear clean clothes that were starched like I was before, with a tie and shave every day. Instead, I just languish in a limbo zone. And by the way, I come down here and I have pictures of her flowers to make her day happy. She's a very wonderful person. And I have other friends too that are all wonderful persons. But sometimes, sometimes we're, music's our friend. That's what we do. I have a lot of musician friends. And the flowers here actually look pretty good today. Last week they didn't look so great. But I have a lot of friends in music, and a lot of them have been harmed. And I know a city attorney that jumped off the Regency Center. And I know that's 2403. And I know it's connected to BRAC. And I know you guys are chomping at you guys being the Amazons and all that. And Mr. Bezos passing on Concord. And I know it's a Guy Berserky. I've known him for a long time. I'm the same age as these guys. And I knew City Attorney Mark Coon, who committed suicide off the parking structure. And I knew, I'm aware of James Gilliland, who was killed in El Cerrito, gunned down 2 years ago. And I knew Attorney John Nedgley found dead in a hotel room. And I know that Attorney Don Moats' office is burned down because I lost money when I tried to sue AT&T. They owe me money, by the way. And Ed Whitaker. I'm doing pretty good. You guys must know I've studied all this. It'd be better if I had monitors here, a camera, a suit, a little green screen behind me with all this stuff flying around. I can do it all. I just need the money. I think that torture, and according to the Lions Capital in London, that applies. And BlackRock, you got a big problem with me because the money that you collect from your friends at CalSTARS and CalSTRS and CalSTARS and CalPERS and the New York Retirement Fund and the New Mexico and the San Francisco one and all those big retirement funds that give you billions of dollars. Your money went into Essex property, and behind that building on Newell Avenue, now called the Agora, there are dead homeless. Can't charge a corporation with murder, though. That's the hard part, right? And we don't know who did it because these guys drift in and drift out and we never see them again. And then lastly, this cop that has been an ex-cop from San Francisco is the head of MoMA, and that's where Mayor Newsom's wife, Jennifer Newsom, goes on occasion. And Jennifer Newsom, nice lady. By the way, I also worked on the People's Self-Defense team in San Francisco, and they lost. And I'm beginning to wonder if my laptop was breached when I was at home, or my systems. I know that. I know that the Mormons in Danville were too close to me. I know that one of the Mormons ended up going to work in the John Benet Ramsey case, and I know that Lockheed bought John Ramsey's company before 9/11, and they bought that, and then John Ramsey's other daughter was hit by a car, and one of my friends was hit by a car, and another one of my friends hit by a car. Oh my God, I even know a girl that ran in front of a train and was cut up into little tiny pieces because they drug them and they make them go flitter. And then that person's death saved $1 million from the county budget to go into, because she's had health problems, and we got to get rid of all those homeless that don't measure up health-wise. and we push them out on the street so they die early, and then they have more medical problems. And we got to churn them out the door, because if you know what, a sick homeless person's not worth keeping. So we dispose of them through homelesshomicides.com. Yeah, you think you, Mr. Bezos, just a little dig here, but you think you're building in Seattle with this Mary's something or other? Not St. Mary's, but you know, we need more than that. We need thousands upon thousands of rooms and places to stay. I survived under tarps, up against fences. I survived while bleeding, being sick. And nobody came to my rescue. They just kept withholding, and they've been withholding from me for, in some cases, as long as 30 years. I grew up in a penthouse where people like David Rockefeller came to dinner with my grandfather. And I'm pretty sure that I'm right about that. And the same thing with Marvin Pierce, President Bush's father and grandfather, excuse me. And that also includes probably Joe Kennedy. And one of my friends connected to us, she was beaten up, but Gavin Newsom willingly accepted some money from Mark Benioff, even though CHP officers probably tried to kill my friend, and I want to protect her, and my other friends, I want to protect them. I'm really worried that somebody's going to come in and whack these people. This store was ground zero for a lot of my troubles. I come here every day. I walked up the street, got my hot coffee, did a few other things, took my guitar, took my laptop, started researching. The researchers never stopped. And here I am, like, well, after they totaled my car in Lafayette, which is another incident connected to the Municipal Pooling Authority, which is connected to the York Risk Management Services, which is connected to Bickmore, which was the predecessor to York, which is connected to Alliant. And by the way, I found the private equity that bought Alliant down in Newport Beach. And it's very easily for me to find all this stuff on the SEC because I wrote some Google tricks, and I can dig it up pretty quickly now. And I've built a pretty big map of who goes where and how Safeway and Target and CVS are all connected. And I have a lot to say about an equities firm, I'll leave it at that, that's very near the murdered homeless people. And nobody's telling us how one person died in December, but the word amongst the homeless was that she was buried alive. And those are the kind of people. And that's the reason that Starbucks is a better company for helping us and letting us say, because the less people, nobody's been killed since you changed your policy. That's a very good feather in your cap, Mr. Johnson. But Mr. Johnson, you can pick up the phone and call Mr. Balmer, because I had dinner with Mr. Balmer in Palo Alto. The homeless guy that can't seem to get back to work, that everybody rejects, who's under a whole lot of stress with now really high blood pressure. You know, how did Home Depot benefit from the arson fire that took out Piedmont Lumber? Well, it wasn't just Home Depot. It was Lowe's. Lowe's opened up in, gosh, maybe late 2009. And then like kablam, zazam in March or February, was it March or something? In 2010, Lowe's burned down. But diagonal to Lowe's, somebody burned down the Wendy's that I remodeled, and somebody burned down the Wendy's across the street from Wendy's, killed 36 people last year. I want you guys to think linear, bigger. I want you to think Calgary. I want you to think the train that rolled down the tracks in Quebec area. And then I want you to think about all the other little mini explosions and the 10 students that were killed in the bus. They're all big fat targets. PG&E's one of them. And I think FedEx is another, BlackRock. So Mr. Fink, I think your surveillance system is pretty poor. I think you need to call Mr. Kavanaugh on the phone and ask him if he read the letter that I sent in 2013, right around the time of the Target data breach, and ask him if he thinks there's any possible connection to the letter I sent Fremont Group to info@fremontgroup.com, going to former Secretary of State George Shultz and Claude Zingradi, that's the right pronunciation, and a few other people, and then maybe ask an attorney named Stuart Vaughn, I think I got it right, and then asked attorney Rick Kopp, who's no longer with the firm. I said, is there any possibility that you guys have been trying to kill Bennett? Because Bennett versus Southern Pacific went down on the courthouse steps. I know something was wrong. I kept everything, and then about 10, 12 years later, I found out my witness had been murdered, and nobody knew that, but I found out because I ran into another witness. And oh my gosh, you know what happens when your witnesses don't show up in a courtroom? The judge goes, hey, bring them or, fold. And my attorney folded. And then that attorney died of cancer. And I don't know what happened. And then my other attorney was beaten up here in Walnut Creek. And he left my case. And then my other witness was killed, and the brother of my attorney's office was murdered. And he knows Steve Bird. I think we got a big domestic terrorism case floating around here. And I think that maybe even Miguel Turano, who worked for the New York State Attorney General, and then I can't remember what was in between, but he spent about 10 years at the House Ethics Department, and he's dead. That's in Benicia. And then for the last one, you tell me how a guy named Walter Little killed his girlfriend named Julie Strack, who happened to work for my adversary Safeway and had to work for my adversary Southern Pacific. And Southern Pacific and Steve Bird and Rick Kopp are all two peas in a pod. I have to go. I am broadcasting late at night, and I am so concerned. No, listen, guys, I'm an easygoing guy, but I'm really tired of this whole story. And the only way I figured out to fight out is to fight my way out with my words and be consistent, be persistent. And when this goes viral, there will be some pictures of my beautiful nephews that were killed. You just tell me the truth, okay? I got one dead behind me here, I got one dead on the other side of the store. I got millions that I've lost, and I know I've lost millions. I added it all up, and I got high blood pressure now. I love all that. I've been in and out of the hospital so many times for 20 years, and I know how I was lied to now. And I figured out that they're still lying to me because they want to lie, because that's what they do, they lie. And that's public officials. And so this has turned into a snowball for them where people could get indicted for, first off, lying to FBI agents, and then second, creating a conspiracy that resulted in the deaths of children. Mr. Bezos, we're all in, pal, because Wilma Hale joins us at the hip. And I'm sorry. I don't think you're anything close to what's going on here, but you need to know. I sure would like some help. I've lost everything I own, and I fought to the bitter end. And if I don't get help, my internal mechanism says my sons are going to get killed. And my battery saver says turn on. Oh, and Mr. Bezos, you sell the blue phones, bold like us. They were used to breach the U.S. Department of Energy. I called the Benghazi Committee, called the House Ethics Committee, or the House Whistleblower, excuse me. What's important is that phone was used to hack the federal government, and I've got the proof. I got all the screenshots of linked back to Kamchatka and to not Pakistan, but to Kazakhstan, and then also there were some in there for Belarus and a whole bunch for Russia and a couple for Moscow, but I can't seem to find them. That's what happened, and it came through that phone, the same one that had the virus on it, and I had a problem, and I just did something that allowed me to see what happened. It's impossible for a guy without international calling to be Kazakhstan. Besides, I called these numbers myself. These are not calls that came to me. And then they showed up with Russian exchanges. The format, a lot of you would know what the difference in the format, but the easiest way to describe it is the last 4 digits are hyphenated. Not like American dialing where it's just a string of 4. North American number dialing plan, I know that too. You want to go there? Yeah, we do. So welcome to the domestic terrorism breach story about a cell phone that you sell, about a virus on AT&T connected to BlackRock, and about a virus connected to Target, where hundreds of millions of dollars were lost or stolen. And then we got fires here where people are dying. I don't know which one you want to tackle first, but I'm way ahead of everybody. The FBI asks me questions now. And so does the chief of police of Walnut Creek. And I'm tired of telling them that the kid in Danville that worked for the father worked for PG&E drowned in a pool. That's tough stuff, man. All right, this is it. My battery's low.